Hey, it's Lisa Kostova. I'm a leadership coach for entrepreneurs using astrological insights. I have recently been getting this question a lot. Lisa, what made you start getting interested in doing and studying and working with astrology of all things? You're Harvard educated MBA, you went to all of these business schools, you worked in private equity, venture capital, you worked with some of the world's wealthiest people, investing their money in rational investments. You've developed products, worked in software, worked with engineers, designers, led teams, built things that are so rational and so not woo woo. And with that, I have to give you some backstory. So it all starts when I was a teenager growing up in Bulgaria. And the Berlin Wall fell when I was 8 years old. So most of my childhood was spent in that turbulent post communism phase where there was a lot of changes, there was a lot of upheaval, and Bulgaria was going through a lot of transformation. So, in my teen years, I was very lucky, fortunate to be accepted to a private American school that was very competitive to get in. And once I was in, it was heavily subsidized by an American foundation. And so I was privileged to be in this environment and learning and developing and loving it. And I always knew there was something bigger in life that I was meant to accomplish. I remember sitting in a crowded bus one day um, on a road in Sofia, the capital of Bulgaria, and looking out in this car outside. And it was a newer car. It was, better looking car than anything I'd seen before. And I said, "Oh, I have a knowing. I have a feeling that my life is not going to be about spending my life in these buses. I'm going to be in the fast lane. I'm going to be doing something that I don't even know about right now. I'm up to big things." And I remember having this knowing. But this knowing was always kind of sometimes I wondered if I was just making it up. And I had a godmother. I call her my godmother. She is the mother of a classmate of mine, and she and my mom used to work in the Academy of Sciences back in Bulgaria. And this woman was trained as an astronomer, as a scientist. But on the side, she was also an astrologer. She took a great interest in my chart and started looking at my chart and looking at it not from the perspective of like, here's who you are, here's like but she looked at it from the perspective of all the time cycles, the developmental cycles that I was going to be experiencing. And I remember one time when I was 15, this was about a year before my life majorly changed and had a lot of stress in my life. She told me, "Oh, Lisa, I was checking out your chart, and in about a year's time or 2 years' time, this was roughly speaking when I would graduate from high school, you have an opportunity to take on major long-term voyages and travels, something that has you establish potentially your home outside of this country. There's big wide horizons opening for you. There's opportunity to expand your worldview, to see the world, to travel. Maybe you're gonna cross the ocean." And for me, crossing the ocean was coming to the US. And at the time, I hadn't been on a plane at all. I hadn't ventured out of Bulgaria except for a short trip to Russia when I was 7 years old with my mom. And here am I, a teenager, getting excited because this knowing that was deep within me, this possibility that I knew existed, was just validated. I had clearly, for the first time in my mind, a vision. Oh, I'm meant to. I have an opportunity. I have an opportunity to establish a new life in the United States. So that was before my life experienced a huge change that would change me forever. And that was my junior year of high school. My dad, who was a doctor and the provider of our family, he died in a car accident with a lot of other doctors. And it was such a profoundly difficult loss for me as a child who was so attached to my dad. My dad was a philosopher. He was not just a doctor and had his name to so many inventions, but he was truly a Renaissance man. He spoke 7 languages. He was literally my window into the world, my window into a wider world than Bulgaria. He would listen to shortwave radio when we were still in the communist regime, and our neighbors will tell on him to the police that he was listening to Western propaganda. But anyway, so the loss of my dad was the loss of this, my window to the world, the loss of somebody who believed in me, who saw the potential in me, who opened the world to me. He was the one who encouraged me to apply to the school. He was the one who taught me English for the first, few years. He's the one who taught me German afterwards. And he was my gateway to this bigger and bigger living. And now when I go back and look at it astrologically, that was definitely a maturation. That was definitely a developmental stage that I had to go through. It wasn't in the cards that my dad was going to die, but the death of my dad unlocked an experience that changed me in a way that was indicated in the chart. There was a possibility for me to be deeply impacted, to mature, to go through some of those maturation that was available to me through my dad's death. Interestingly enough, in a very short succession afterwards, Bulgaria, my home country, entered into a rapid hyperinflation. So my mom and my dad, my mom had retired by that time. Both my parents had me in their 40s. So by the time I entered my teens, they had hit that retirement age for the country, which is like your mid to late 50s. My dad was still working. My mom had just retired. And so Bulgaria went into hyperinflation. The whole country just went into a tailspin. I'll give you a sense of April of 1996. This is how I remember it. April of 1996. You could buy $1 with 16, so 16 lev, the currency. And then by January of next year, 97, not even 9 months later, you needed 3,500 lev to buy $1. I just want you to think about it. Think what would happen if the price of a Coke can went from $1 to like $1,000, $1,200, and your income stayed the same. How would it feel like? My mom and my income didn't go up because we were pegged to the currency. I mean, the inflation was going on, so the nominal amount that we would receive in currency would increase, but not by the amount of the hyperinflation. And so maybe instead of getting, I don't know what it was, 100 lev, maybe you would get 1,000 lev as a pension, but that would not be sufficient to cover the increased cost of living. So this is difficult for me to remember. Our cat was eating. We didn't even have money to buy proper food. Our cat was eating tofu, and I remember in January of 97 passing by this booth that was selling all kinds of things. Like it was like a 7-Eleven type of shop, but a smaller scale, on my way to home, and there was this bottle of shampoo that had the same exact price as my monthly pension from the government. So I could buy that bottle of shampoo and nothing more. I think it was the equivalent of $2. And my mom and I had a combined government income of $5 that month. So that was the year when I was submitting applications for universities. And I didn't have any chance to stay at home, because even if I entered the government university in Bulgaria, the nominal fee to attend that university would not be affordable for me and my family. And the cost of living expenses, I wouldn't be able, I would have to work somewhere full time in order to cover that. And I knew from attending that private school, which by the way, totally stepped in and subsidized my education because my mom and I were completely broke. My mom took cleaning jobs, she took all kinds of jobs to make ends meet. And I started going and teaching. I found a private tutor, a private student that his parents paid me in US dollars, I think a couple hundred US dollars, which fed our family for months to teach him English. So at that time, I was applying to US colleges and universities, and I had to get a full scholarship. There was no way other than that. And the chances were very daunting. The risk that, or the chances of me getting into US colleges were very slim because I needed the full ride. And I knew all of these other talented Bulgarian and Eastern European kids that were applying in huge like waves, like tons of people applying. And if you had looked at it rationally, I mean, some people even asked me like, Lisa, what about plan B? Aren't you gonna apply to some Bulgarian university? Are you gonna make a plan to stay here? And I said, no, I need that full scholarship. I need that full ride. And for me, that was based on the faith and knowing the conviction that not only was that my only way, but that way was possible because of my godmother who encouraged me and said, yes, Lisa, that year, the opportunity is there for you. You have it, it's yours. And so I was never really doubting it. In my mind, it was done, it was manifest. And I don't know what I was thinking at the time because I didn't even have a money to buy the plane ticket. I was fortunate enough, I applied to 7 or 8 top US colleges because those are the only ones that had enough money to give full scholarships to international students. I was extremely lucky to get into 2. I had full rides, invitations for full rides to 2 colleges in the US, and one of them, the University of Pennsylvania, the Wharton School, undergraduate business school, was where I ended up going and attending a dual degree program there. And I later learned that it was very interesting because the whole concept of travel, of being international, has always been so appealing to me, and that was part of what my godmother had given me. Astrological guidance was opening up for me the opportunity to travel and explore the world. And the program that admitted me was the International Program of International Studies in Business, and it required that you spend a semester abroad outside of the US somewhere. For me, that was Germany. So I got to, my second year of college, I got to travel all over Germany and all over Europe, places I'd never been before, largely because I was convinced, and I actually saw the signs about why I should apply to Penn. It's a longer story, but basically there were a lot of signs that made me feel good, and they specifically said in their brochure, we do not give financial aid to international students. Turns out that my program director really loved my application, and he personally went with it in his hands and lobbied at the Office of Financial Aid for my scholarship. I had no way of knowing that. I just had to trust. I just have to have faith and not be dissuaded from applying, from putting in the work that went into creating each of those applications. It's not like nowadays where common applications get you in the door of all these colleges and universities. It was actually individually, like handwritten application to each one with their own essays. And so once I hit that wall, once I hit that, holy shit, I cannot get any poorer than this. I cannot get any more desperate than this. This cannot get worse. The only option was up. And having that knowing and the conviction from my guidance that my astrology guide had given me was pivotal, was critical for me to have that faith and have the conviction to be able to shoot for that crazy, crazy, improbable goal. And another, just having faith that resources would materialize. I applied, I literally read The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand because I saw an ad in our school for this international competition, well, actually national competition in the US by the Ayn Rand Institute that was awarding hundreds of dollars to the top essay contest winners. So I made a plan. I was going to dedicate a number of hours every day. And I remember I was commuting to school an hour each way. I was spending most of my day at school. Then I was going and doing the tutoring for the person who I was teaching English to. Then I was coming home doing homework for school. I don't think I slept more than 5 hours a night at that time in my life. But I made a plan. Okay, I'm going for this essay competition. I'm going to break down this huge book in chunks, read it, and then I'm going to focus. I'm going to choose my essay topics, and I'm going to write. So I did all that, and literally after I'd gotten the full scholarship to Penn, after I'd secured through a foundation part of my plane ticket, I had no startup capital to come to the U.S. I had nothing to come to the U.S. with, not like a single dollar. And I remember my mom called me over one time. There was a phone call at home, and she calls me over to the phone. She's like, Lisa, I think it's an American, somebody calling from America. You remember back in the days we used to have those stationary phones? This was 1997. So I pick up the phone, and the voice on the other end sounds very confused. He goes, hi, where am I calling to? Oh, what is this number? Where am I calling to? And I said, you're calling Bulgaria. You're calling Sofia, Bulgaria. And there was a pause on the other side of the phone. And then the guy laughed. And he said, wow, this is the first time our essay contest has a winner outside of the US in 50 years of holding the contest. And it was the Ayn Rand Institute. And they were calling me. They were calling me to let me know that there's a check of $500 that was waiting for me. Where should it be sent? And I had just received my assignment, my dorm room assignment, and as part of my full ride to Penn, I had to work on campus in the cafeteria. And I was working a lot in college to pay for part of my scholarship. And I had just gotten this assignment. You know, when they send you the welcome package, there's the address that says, here's your new mailing address in the US in Philadelphia. And I said, oh, great. Here's the address that you can send this $500 check to. And he said, great. When you arrive in the US, there'll be a check waiting for you in the mail. And you can go deposit it in the bank. And that was my startup capital. And $500 doesn't sound like a lot now. But remember, we were living on less than $10 a month. It was dire. So this for me was huge, and it really cemented my belief and my faith in astrology, and being so connected to it in a way that would lead me and would guide me through so many other transformations and decisions in my life. And I can't wait to tell you more about those decisions and transformations that happened in my life because I was guided by astrology. I was guided by understanding, working with this power of insight, and really maximizing the opportunities and having that faith and conviction that there was something else out there for me. There's something bigger, and going for it. Thank you for listening. I will see you next time.